Did you know that you're not supposed to die at anything less than 120? Let me show you something. In the Bible, in Genesis chapter 6, in verse 3, God says something there. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. When I first read the scripture, I was a lot younger. And because of the position of this verse in the Bible, it seemed like it was actually a negative thing. Like God was saying that, oh, these people are so wicked. And you know what? I'm just going to give them 120 years, especially because the people that were living in those days were living up to 900 and so on. But fast forward into our own day and age, we see that 120 years is not much of a punishment. If anything, it was a promise. And that was what God was saying at that time. When I read it in the ICB, that is the International Children's Bible, it says something like, "I will not always be angry with man, his days shall be 120 years. Now, the biggest argument to this is found in the book of Psalms 90, from verse 10. Let me read it. It says, "The days of our years are 80 years and 10. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away." For you who do not understand what 80 and 10 means, that simply means 70 or 80, as the other one says. So it is basically saying here in essence that man will live up to 70, which is the common thing that people have bought into these days. A lot of people believe that if you live up to 70 and even 80, that you've done really well. But there is a problem in this scripture. Because if you follow the scripture, it says that by their labor and their sorrow. Now, this particular scripture came at a time when the children of Israel were completely disobedient to God in the wilderness. This was right after they left Egypt. And they were dying because they were disobedient. This story was when they got to the promised land the first time and they were supposed to enter, and they said, "No, we cannot go in. And God, you brought us out here to kill us, blah, blah, blah." And then God sent them into the wilderness, and he said that, "Okay, all y'all that got here, you're not going to make it into the promised land. Only your children will." And because of that, that particular generation died in the wilderness. And so they were only living up to 70. And the ones that were strong among them were living up to 80, but that was it. So this was not the promise of God. Because the thing about God's promise is that if he says something, he will never go back on it. The reason these people were living that age was because they were in disobedience. That's why it mentions labor and sorrow. But God's promise for you is to live 120 years. And it's not 120 years in pain. And some people might say that, "Oh, I don't want to live 120 years and all of my teeth fall off." That is not the promise of God. If you look at all of the people who God carried along through life, they lived the full years and they serve God with all of their body parts intact. You can live 120 years, and it is by faith.